You're listening to the Patenting for Inventors podcast with registered patent attorney, Dr. Adam Diamond, founder of Diamond Patent Law, the #1 source for securing your intellectual property needs. Now, here's your host, Adam Diamond.
Hello and welcome to the Patenting for Inventors podcast, episode 17, the background of the invention. My name is Dr. Adam Diamond, a registered patent attorney and founder and owner of Diamond Patent Law in Los Angeles, California. I can be contacted through my website at patentingforinventors.com, that's patentingforinventors.com, to answer all your questions about patents and intellectual property in general. Right now, we're going through how to write each of the parts of a patent application. The order I like to do it in and how I've gone through it so far in this podcast are the claims, then the drawings, then the detailed description of the embodiment, then the brief description of the drawings. The next section I like to do is the background of the invention. There's no one correct way of the order you write your application, but I found that I have to do fewer revisions along the way if I use this order. In the background of the invention, you discuss what the state of things are before you came up with your invention. It's really important that you don't talk about your own invention here. The background section doesn't mean that you talk about the background of how you came up with your invention. You don't say, then I went to my garage and started tinkering around with circuits and gears and came up with this invention. What you want to do is talk about what's out there and what the problem is, and some problems that other inventions haven't solved, or what's not ideal about them. You don't want to be too disparaging about other people's inventions, just say what they do and what they can't do. In this section, you don't want to say anything about how your invention solves the problem. You want to leave the reader saying, after he or she reads the background section, that is a problem. What could be done to solve that problem? Try not to give any clues on what can solve the problem. The reason why you don't want to go into your invention here, or talk about how the problem can be solved, is that what the background means are things that are already known before you came up with your invention. If you describe your own invention here, what you're saying is that your own invention was already known. If your invention was already known, then your invention isn't new and non-obvious, so you can't get a patent on it. That's why you also don't want to give any clues about how your invention might work. Because if you give clues about how it might work, what you're saying is that what was already known are the various clues on how to solve the problem. And if people knew these clues, then your invention might be considered obvious. Usually the background section is pretty short, just a couple paragraphs. Let's go back to the Avocado Slicer patent. It's US patent number 8726799 that you can find on a Google patent search, and its background section. Some people like to specifically put in patent numbers in the background section and say something like, this patent describes X, Y, and Z. But other people just like to be broad and not mention any specific patents or patent applications, but just say what's out there. In the Avocado Slicer patent, the first paragraph talks about an avocado slicer and how people slice avocados. First, you cut it in half, but the pit is usually stuck in one of the halves. Then you take the pit out. Then you slice the avocado into multiple slices and remove it from the avocado skin. You can use a knife to do all these things. And you can see in this section, it's really broad and general, and it's not disparaging anything. The next paragraph talks about one example of an avocado slicer out there. They describe that there's a current device that has a handle and lasso-like blade at one end that carves the pit out from the fruit, and a fan-like slicer at the other end. Then they do say some things that aren't ideal about how that device works. They say the device is bulky, and the lasso-like blade does not accommodate pits of different sizes and shapes, and during slicing, avocado residue can become trapped in the spaces of the slicer. And that's pretty much it. They say some things that are problems to the current device, but don't really say it's horrible. They just say some of its limitations. Usually I like to end my background section with a sentence that goes, thus, there currently remains a need for improved avocado slicers, or whatever the type of invention it is. You want to leave the reader thinking, yes, I can see there are problems with the current device. What could solve those problems? I have no idea. Let me read on to see how the invention solved these problems. Nowhere in the background section did it mention that this invention has a recess to grab the pit, or other features that are advantageous over presently used devices. That only goes in the detailed description of the embodiment section, which I talked about in episode 15, or the summary of the invention section, which I'm going to go over in the next episode. There is one other brief section that's considered part of the background, and that's called the field of the invention. Usually people just put this before the section that's titled Background of the Invention. It's so short that I didn't want to do a whole podcast episode for it. The Avocado Slicer patent doesn't have this section, but most patents do. If you look up patent number 4091766 for a pet collar that can repel insects, you'll see a really basic example. This section usually just is one sentence, and the first part of the sentence is really broad, and often you'll see the words, "This invention relates generally to," and then you say what it relates to, and then followed by 3 words, and more specifically, and then you write something a little bit more specific about what your invention is. In the pet collar example, they wrote, "This invention generally relates to animal supplies, and more specifically to animal collars which facilitate the detection, identification, and protection of an animal." So you can see that the very broad invention relates to animal supplies, and the more specific part of it relates to detection, identification, and protection of the animal. It doesn't go into any detail, it's just the basic field of the invention. When you write yours, you should just find another patent that you think is in the same field as your invention, and you can just write something really similar. If you want help with drafting your patent application, you can contact me through my website at patentingforinventors.com. That's patentingforinventors.com. I'm Adam Diamond, and until next time, keep on inventing.
Thanks for listening to the Patenting for Inventors podcast with host Adam Diamond. If you enjoyed the show, please rate and review on iTunes. The contents of this podcast are intended for general informational purposes only. The facts of every legal matter are unique, and the content of this podcast should not be construed as offering legal advice for your specific legal situation. For more information and help with your own intellectual property needs, contact Adam Diamond at patentingforinventors.com. That's patentingforinventors.com. Or call Diamond Patent Law at 424-281-0162. The preceding information may be considered an attorney advertisement and does not establish any attorney-client relationship.